Alex Answer here. It is July 12th, 2016. Coming to you from my place somewhere out there in southwest Colorado. And I'm enjoying a day off after working a couple of days at the restaurant after going back to work on the 3rd of July. Looking forward to accomplishing my goal of financing my own tiny home, whether I build it or get something pre-made. There's a lot of different reasons why someone may want to go off grid. We all have our reasons. For those of us that have gone off grid, where formerly maybe we're people that are, for example, from the city, born in the city, like that song, You Belong to the City, from the 1980s, and that does remind me of Portland. And I do look back on Portland and all the things going on. That's why I upload some of the things taking place from time to time. So I'm grateful to be out of that place. I want to talk a little bit about, though, the manufactured civil unrest. And you're going to hear a little bit of traffic, but we're going to go ahead and do this video anyways. Manufactured civil unrest and the way the media responds to certain stories, the way certain things are framed. We take a look at the situation with Strickland. And he pulled out a gun. And many people, many observers, I believe that it was more likely done in self-defense. Strickland being a controversial journalist, some may see him as a libertarian. He's definitely been promoted by a number of conservative blogs. There's a number of people that didn't like his appearance and his videography, his documentation of a number of protests in Portland. I'm not a big fan of this whole left-right, you're a liberal, you're a dirty liberal, you're an evil conservative. I try to see things from a bigger picture, but do people have their own right to cover things within their own lens and understanding, and then pass on that information and documentation to other people that have a certain political lens? And the answer is yes. So yeah, we do see somewhat of a witch hunt with Strickland and other people. More people than ever are wondering how many of these events are staged. From the Dallas shooting to Orlando to the widespread protests that we're now seeing across the United States. The trending story. Black Lives Matter, BLM, Black Lives Matter, BLM. Not so much Bureau of Land Management and what that's doing to people's property rights. Whether it comes under the name of Black Lives Matter or Occupy, the names keep changing, but some of the themes remain consistent within the mob rule psychology. People coming together that believe that they have the right to tell others, you can't travel down this road, this is our road, our streets. Well, what about those people driving those cars? I've brought up this question before with regards to those that call themselves anarchists, but they believe that they can stomp some of them on the hood of someone's vehicle and tell them they can't progress forward because they're going to force what they're passionate about at that moment on someone else. So people are weighing in, they have different perspectives on this, and some people are calling BLM a terrorist organization. The role that Alex Jones is doing is exposing it to a point only to where people respond racially. He is acting within the racial paradigm. So are others. Others are seeing beyond this. Others are acting like they've lost their mind, praising the Orlando shooter because the people allegedly shot, if the story is even real, were gay. And maybe some could say flaming, a little extra on the flamboyant side, being that it happened at a nightclub, and certain things go on in nightclubs like that. They're a little above and beyond. So what I'm interpreting is a lot of negativity and going in a lot of different directions, and people not even really questioning where this is coming from and where this is going, and how people in urban environments like Portland, like Dallas, like Los Angeles, like New York, like Chicago, these major hubs of humans buzzing, bzzz, buzzing, bzzz. And no, there is no perfect place on Earth. There is no guarantee that you can go off grid and be 100% self-sufficient. But some of us psychologically need that space from other human beings buzzing, bzzz, bzzz. And there's nothing wrong with emotions. It's part of being human. And I think some humans are here to develop their emotions. But to be controlled by our emotions, for our emotions to be controlled by the mass media, oh, now it's time to rise up for a cause. Black Lives Matter. But have you ever seen, and we won't spend a lot of time on this, but we're going to touch on it, an Afghan Lives Matter hashtag? Have you ever seen it? And the answer is that you haven't. Have you ever done it? And perhaps the answer is no, you've never done it. And there's reasons for that. And we can talk about that. And we can talk about people subconsciously, whether they know it or not, being infected by the propaganda that has targeted the Afghan Iraqi people. We can talk about that perhaps at greater length another time. But you do not see an Afghani or Iraqi lives matter. In fact, people will say, if anything, Iraqi lives matter before Afghan lives matter. Because of this association with America being attacked, the false narrative by Afghans from Afghanistan. There's more to the story of 9/11 and Osama bin Laden's backers. And Osama bin Laden's not an Afghani, he's a Saudi. Doesn't matter. Goes right over people's heads. You don't see an Afghan Lives Matter hashtag. So without spending an hour on that topic alone, I'll give you the Cliff Notes now. I don't see genuine protesters in the streets. At all. I see things that have confirmed what I've always thought about humankind's ability to be easily mind-controlled in these mass movements. And then again, I was touching on it earlier, and then I just kind of jumped to another topic. The militant aspect of occupying something, taking it down and shutting it down, shut it down. It's like a programming. It's like these people could be used as a de facto Civil War proxy army to shut down infrastructure. And then something else could be going on over here. I mean, and the names themselves, Occupy, and the hands up, don't shoot. That there is something submissive and psychotic and almost schizophrenic about just running around screaming, hands up, don't shoot. So it's a multi-pronged programming. Oh, we want freedom, so we're going to storm the freeway and stop you from traveling. Oh, this is about Black Lives Matter, but it's a black woman driving a car one day on 39th and Belmont, and there are white teenage punks stopping her from going to work. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. People are getting caught up in the individual stories. We have right now our, Facebook headquarters has Black Lives Matter. Now, a large sign at the front of the building. I and others have already been talking about the tech industry and the social media websites pushing certain issues, making them the trending topic. And a lot of us saw it last week. For those of you that are news hounds, for those of you that pay attention to what's on the wire, you saw it last week. Couple more shootings. And then boom, the whole Dallas shooting of 11 officers, 4 dead. People look at that footage, you go, how could someone remain calm? Footage I mirrored. While all of that is going on around them. More emotion, more emotion. How much of all of these things, for that matter, are staged? I mean, across the board. And then, of course, you have the real reaction, the emotionalism. Michael Strickland, that was a genuine situation. That was a genuine situation of someone passionate about what he did. He made people angry because he was covering some of the things and behaviors, including the things that these people chant about cops in the ground, dead cops in the ground. Yeah, that's real peaceful. This makes complete sense for that to be considered a peaceful rally. And that's where those on the left that support some of these rallies and the behaviors of these rallies, they don't show accountability for those people that get up in people's faces. That's the mob mentality. where you can have women, they're supposed to go soft and feminine, actually support aggressive males stealing from others or attacking journalists because they don't like that journalist, because they're being labeled the enemy. This is classic divide and conquer. And so observing the events in Portland, Oregon, that is a perfect microcosm for a macrocosm. Yeah, and these are the years that lead to a greater conflict. This is all building. This is all building and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And if anything, this confirms the very things that I was worried about in 2013 when I gave my solar flare presentation in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I talked about the civil unrest years leading up to the 2020s and everything popping off from there. But the civil unrest being there to weaken us internally. Then there's infrastructure issues regarding our roads, many bridges in America in a state of collapse, the earthquake risks on the West Coast, FEMA's recent report regarding the death toll they're expecting from the next quake, big quake, 9.0 to hit the Pacific Northwest, not to mention their warnings about a food spike, 395% triggering food riots in and around the year 2025, 2024, to be specific. Interesting. I've made multiple mentions of the many reports out there discussing where the world's militaries will be by that time, the amount of weapons they'll have, the amount of progress that China is expected to make, their navy, their weapons technology, their dominance of space. See how it's all coming together? And what are the people doing? Are they talking peacefully in the streets? Are they being polite with each other? Again, let's reference Mike Smith, well-known videographer. Film the Police Portland. You got people going, no, you're with the guy that pulled the gun. No, Mike Smith is filming. He's not with the guy that pulled the gun. But because he's intervening, you have the mob, you have the zombies from Black Lives Matter going at Mike Smith, who's he's shown himself to be a member of Black Lives Matter. We have our differences of opinion on a number of things. I don't support taking over roadways. I don't see that as very libertarian or really anarchist. I just see it as just being annoying, being an agitator. And Mike Smith has done his fair share, just for your information, of that in Portland, Oregon. That's fine. We all have our different ways of doing things. But to me, that's not a real anarchist, because that's violation. That's a violation of someone else's right to travel. And I think that disqualifies someone from being a real anarchist. And of course, there are the philosophical anarchists that don't really do much in the real world, but they're just all philosophy all the time. And I think it's good to have balance. I don't identify myself to be an anarchist or anything political, but I do see myself as somewhat of a contrarian and a philosopher, certainly more than a revolutionary, who's here to shed, maybe shed the bondage, help tear that down and slice through it, but shine light on ideas that people don't normally consider. Now, observing what I've said over the years about solar maximum, the links to protests and widespread civil unrest and people being less apathetic, and the recent solar flare, the effects of which, of course, continue to affect the people the days after the geomagnetic storm. Even weeks to months, I would say, like a trickle-down effect of the solar rain and it impacting the body. And then we see, all of a sudden, there's a spike. There's a spike in the protests, and there's a spike in this propaganda to get the whites against the blacks against the whites. And then it's those times on social media, you'll see the spikes of the racially charged, emotionally charged statements. So it isn't that the sun is to blame. It's that the sun is constantly present. It is constantly present. And now with technology, we can see the constant geomagnetic activity spurting, going up like a sound wave, and then it gets quiet. Sunspots gets quiet, geomagnetic activity goes up, the wave continues. The planetary K index, spaceweather.com, spaceweather.gov. And then you go to news.google.com, or you go to your favorite alternative media site, boom, look at all the war games going on. Look at all the protests going on. Look at all this political, and then look at how they're trying to redirect that emotion. Touching on the archons briefly, they feed on human emotion. Whether you choose to call them archons or demons, or whether you're open-minded enough to the idea that there is an unseen realm out there that somehow, some way, like the movie The Matrix, is getting its sustenance from that heightened human activity, especially negative human emotion. So I think I see confirmation of that. On the newswire, it is reflecting as above, so below, as below, so above. So think about that. Think about that before you get really emotional and reactive. Have this in your understanding that there are periods where there's just simply more stuff going off, whether it be here or there. And if it's a local community, for example, small area, and they're not really feeling the effects of the larger world, it doesn't mean they're immune to it. To the effects of what's going on a larger picture, they may not be as affected by the Black Lives Matter tensions, racial tensions going on and the shootings and whatnot. But they may, if they're out of balance, be having personal issues. They could be responding to the changes by drinking more and doing more drugs. I've surely seen my fair share of junkies and people that look like they're on obviously something other than weed in natural areas. So I know that nature can heal, but not necessarily by itself. So this is a period in time where, on the microcosmic level, whether we're looking at something happening in Portland, or something happening in another nation, or something happening in another American city, or something happening in your own household. Oh boy, especially when we have those solar flares around Christmas. I've gotten plenty of emails during past Christmases where there was like a flipping of the sun's poles. And late 2013, for example. Yeah, that period, that winter. A lot of people had some weird stuff going on in their personal life around Christmas. I remember posting on Facebook about it and then getting that data back. See, now we have the technology to communicate with each other, so we can actually learn at a faster rate what's going on, especially with relation to solar flares and their effect on people's behavior and people's moods and the things going on in people's lives. So why don't we use this knowledge and information to empower our lives? To help us step up the ladder to greater levels of understanding and awareness. That's what I propose. I propose, instead of getting emotionally reactive, which I know a whole lot about, let's learn from our emotional reactionaryism. And when we're seeing the most of it in ourselves, in others, in the news, let's be aware of when there's a spike in the propaganda machine. Fight, fight, fight. This group versus that group. And be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself that even though they have these different, Hispanic versus white versus black thing going on, they also have those groups unified. It's called the U.S. Armed Forces. It's called occupying the Middle Eastern countries. And that's kind of sad that is one of the few ways in which the races, the men, come together, is when they're stomping on the face of the Middle East together as those that are allegedly defending our freedoms. Yeah, what a misnomer that is. You look at those guys that are attacking and robbing the people that were burning the flag. Hey man, it's a piece of cloth. Seriously. All they're doing is proving that freedoms are endangered by robbing someone and getting away with it. And they're promoting thug life, raise the roof. Oh, was up, 666, I served in battalion 6, dude, where do you so-called men come up with this false notion that you're doing something for the freedoms of the people living in the United States, instead of you being the actual in your actions, the nail on the coffin of this country? we're going to talk more in future videos, about these consequences that the New World Order has laid out for America, because it's been entrapment. It's like the FBI going out and going, hey, you want to commit an act of terror? We definitely need to get our stats up that we've caught more terrorists. And they've done it so many times. On the larger picture, they co-opt and entrap the American people. Go over there and torture those people. And keep your mouth shut about the millions dead. And just spend your time on politics and expecting somebody else to fix the fucking problem that you helped create by voting for some of these mass murders, as many Americans have. See, it's their end game plan to continue to drive Americans into this dark direction where, oh, there's no consequences. We have all the weapons and space weapons. We can do whatever we want. And what we've done to others, it'll never be done to us. Yeah, they're just going to keep pushing that mass media mind control paradigm. And Alex Jones will help with that as well. The only threat is the immigration, the immigrants, and martial law, and the TSA hands down the pants. Russia, China, free pass. Future armies of the New World Order, they're going to march on America, free pass. No. Let's not go there. Let's just blame our own government, and let's just blame the dark skins. So in the end, you have, in reality, whether people want to face it or not, a white nationalist movement. That is easy for Ross Story. That is easy for the left to smear. Because they're only halfway using propaganda, folks. They're using propaganda to demonize the Second Amendment and demonize real patriots and demonize the liberty movement. But when you've got people of influence giving them ammunition, Michael Strickland, he's being called a white nationalist. Is that a smear? Well, if you look at the people that actually support his work, like it or not, those people are white nationalists. And when you look at the comment section, to a certain degree, if you have an overwhelming large amount of your audience, in some cases, that are your fans, that are the people that have stepped forward to organize a GoFundMe for your legal campaign, if they have links to certain groups that are connected to Nazis and Stormfront, that doesn't look good. Is that the case with Strickland? There's a little bit of evidence to suggest so. People should work harder to keep themselves out of this racial divide. And my closing thoughts in this video from the land, perhaps there'll be more later in the day. With regards to 9/11, with regards to the victims of war, with regards to like a number of issues that I've talked about, I've seen like widespread apathy across the racial board, from black to Afghani to white, and me being mixed, and both sides of my family showing themselves to be, I don't know if I would say zombie-like, absolutely with some of them. Stockholm Syndrome, ooh, yeah. A little bit of mind control, yes. And if I had to, I could write a deeper analysis and talk about certain individuals and what I specifically think had happened to them. Based on environmental factors, based on propaganda, based on mind control, based on psychic warfare. I could talk about relatives. I could talk about parents and what I think has happened to them as a result of how the environment has shaped their reality in this matrix. But this is not the time. What I can say, I've seen widespread ignorance. So I can't see a racial supremacy to any of it, or inferiority. And in all my dealings with all these people on this planet, from Hispanic to black to white to others, I've seen the good, and I've seen the ongoing social zombie apocalypse. So there's a reason why I'm here. And I'm also armed with the knowledge you can take the person out of Babylon. You can't necessarily take Babylon out of the person, so I use caution when dealing with others out here. Because I am no longer under some sort of a spell. People are more conscious out here. Because people out here are products of the society out there. as well as myself. I'm here for my own safety, survival, sanity, as we go through these bumps within our society. And this is what I wanted for years, to continue what I started a decade ago, because it matters. The truth matters. Real talk that the world is ready for matters. To talk about these things that are going on in the world, but to do it from a place of safety and not be in the eye of the storm. That has already manifested. Tiny home or not, one could say I'm already there. Nature's grounding, nature's healing, and I'm glad that I'm able to continue to bring you this knowledge and information here and now. And I plan to continue to do that before the grid goes down, before these larger events begin to unfold. Because I know that the world needs another perspective. Don't get emotional. Don't take everything so personal. Take a deep breath. Take a step back. And look at the larger picture. And that which is trying to control it. I'm Alex Ansary signing off. June 12th, 2016.